It's time we look at a spin-off to one of the best light novels. Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to look at Reign of Seven Spellblades, Side of Fire. Now, to be 100% transparent, this was sent to me by Yen Press for a fair and honest review, and I'm going to give it a fair and honest review. Reign of Seven Spellblades was written by Bokuto Ono and with illustrations by Ruria Miyuki. Now, to give a little bit of history on this one, I read the first few volumes of it and I really enjoyed it. I actually did a video on it a few years ago, well before the anime got announced. And as time went on, I just kind of stopped reading it. And why was that? Well, the reason was easy. Tournament arc. A tournament arc started rearing its head and I was just kind of like, you know what? I like this series, but I don't adore it. I can't stand tournament arcs, and my thought was, you know what? I'll park the series and then I'll get back to it once the tournament arc finishes and I can just binge it all. But when Yen Press sent me a copy of Reign of the Seven Spellblades, Side of Fire, I thought I'd give the series another chance because, hey, this one, with it being a side story, it kind of promises that you're not going to have to catch up on everything. And I'm going to hold it to that. If I'm perfectly honest, first things first, is that this is very much a standalone title. It does help if you have already read it because, hey, you have the whole backstory of Kimberly, the professors, the students, what goes on in this weird, strange, magical school. But you also get, yeah, with this you don't really need to. So this is following Godfrey, one of the side characters in it, and yes, now this is interesting because this is somewhat of a prequel series. Now I'm going to say series because it's a weird one. So it says Side of Fire, it doesn't say that there's any more, but the author does say at the end, we'll see you in another Side of Fire. But what is interesting about this is this just dumps on a lot more lore onto the series. But it also does it in a palatable way. So Reign of Seven Spellblades focuses on this magical school called Kimberly. And to put it short, it's just a bit like Harry Potter. If you've seen or read Harry Potter, you know the kind of magical school that we're going on here. However, it's probably Harry Potter written by someone who, well, doesn't really want to make necessarily a children's story. Harry Potter Hogwarts was a relatively safe place, despite giving all of these children the equivalent of, well, nuclear arsenals in their magic wands. And Kimberly reflects that. Kimberly is a dangerous place, a place where a lot of students basically don't survive until the final year. And the talk of graduation, that's another thing entirely. So in this dangerous area we have Godfrey. Like I said, he is a side character in the main series, but this is a prequel. This is his first few years and he is eventually tasked with basically having the cleanup crew, the protection crew, the student body. It's an interesting one. So basically he recruits a bunch of characters which are somewhat familiar to fans of the series, but this is an introduction of them, and they police the very dangerous halls of Kimberly. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to be honest with you. Side of Fire, I enjoyed it, but I really struggled to get into it. I spent about a week on this before I eventually went, I'm going to have to sit down and finish it. I want to go on to other things. When it was good, and it reminded me of what I love about Reign of Seven Spellblades. If you like that world and you want more, you're going to have a great time. The characters, they are fun, they're interesting enough, and we have a few curveballs that you just don't see in normal light novels. Nevertheless, it's a weird one because, I don't know, it just felt like, as I was going through, very little was happening. So, Reign of Seven Spellblades genuinely has a great plot. It's a revenge plot at the end of the day. But this one, I don't know, it kind of moves its wheels but doesn't necessarily go anywhere. The characters themselves are great. It's nice to see some different takes on tropes and kind of characters that you just won't normally see, especially in a magical school setting. We've got Godfrey. He's less interested in this as a protagonist as he is as a side character in the main one. We have Ophelia, who, if you guys, I think she was actually in the anime. She is kind of like the main character in Volume 4. We have a few other characters as well who, yeah, they're interesting, but they're not too. I don't remember them in the main series, so they're kind of like, oh yeah, these characters, I don't remember them in the main one. They might have been in, they might not have been, but it kind of made me realise how much of Seven Spellblades I kind of forgot about. Now, another thing that I do need to give Seven Spellblades for is its fights. This was one of the things that really got me into the original series, and that has been carried into this. So like I said, this is basically the kind of the protection squad. They're going around the halls, cleaning up kind of the delinquents, and like I said, this is a school full of danger. The students tend to run rampant. The lecturers aren't really much better than them. There's magical beings and beasts and all kinds of things that will just straight up kill you.
I'm a guy. Thank you, whoever.
But the fights were genuinely great, and if you like that in Reign of Seven Spellblades, you're going to have a great time. There is a lot of very unique and interesting ways of putting across characters. You know where I've said in the past we've got stuff like One Piece, JoJo, Infinite Dendrogram, where characters have very distinct abilities and the series is written around those abilities. This does expand on that, and we have a fight what is essentially against a painter. That's right, a painter, someone who paints, as the final fight, and it is absolutely magnificent. It is one of the absolute highlights of this volume, and if I'm honest, once I got onto that, I couldn't put the book down. But on the other hand, it did take a lot to get to it. A lot of times of picking this up and just being like, reading 10 pages and just be like, this is not hitting me. It's really not hitting me. Again, it's a series where when it's good, it's very good. When it's not so good, I'm going to be honest, it's kind of a bit weary reading it. And I was contemplating dropping it a few times. And I very rarely drop titles mid-volume. It's one of those ones where I'm going to be honest, I liked what I liked when I liked it. But it was definitely a slog getting to it.